This production has been authorized, vetted, evaluated, and approved for your consumption by Wild LLC. You're welcome.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Look, it's Wrestling with Life. It's back.
We're back. After
we
a
haven't-
short hiatus.
Yeah, we haven't been
We're
here
here.
for a while.
We're back.
May 17th, to be exact, was our last broadcast of Wrestling with Life. But we are
been a minute.
Yeah,
been
but
a
we're
minute.
back.
Yes.
We're here. We've got a great episode for you tonight. And we're going to get started in just a minute. But before
Yep.
we do, as always, if you like what we're doing here on the channel, there's a few free and easy ways to support us. Number one, 3 of them. Yes. Number 1, like us.
Hit that like button.
Hit that like button. Let
It
us
lets
know
us
that
know. Yep.
you enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Number 2,
Smash that
Smash
subscribe
it.
button.
just absolutely
Hulk,
smash it.
Smash it.
That's right. Hulk smash it. Grab a hammer, hit it like you're Thor.
Yeah.
That way you never miss anything we're doing. And finally, share us with your friends and family.
Family, colleagues, a stranger on the street.
Anybody,
go to a corner
listen.
store.
Find some podcast hosts and tell them, hey, we've got something we think you'd like, because
Yeah.
we like it too.
Yes.
So if you would like to take that a little bit further, guys, we
We
got
got
some
merch. Look at that.
Yes.
Brand new Opinion City Wild LLC design made by
Yes.
that guy up there.
That's right. That's our
Yeah.
Let Us In logo. So we've got that, and we've got tons of other great merch. Links will be down in the description.
Yep.
Follow us at Opinion City Pod to find out everything that we're doing. Follow Wild LLC at Wild_LLC
Do
to see everything that they are doing as well. We are contractually obligated as employees of Wild LLC to
Yes.
promote them as well. So
Yes.
even on Wrestling with Life, they said, hey,
They still
you
have. Yeah.
guys need to promote us. That's
Yep.
right.
Yep.
And finally, and most important, and we say this every time, and we're not kidding, this is the
No.
most important thing. Please follow and support
the
our guests.
Yes.
You are going to see links running along the bottom of the screen during the
Mhm.
episode.
Mhm.
We love it when you support us, but we love it even more when you support our guests.
Absolutely.
Very important.
Yes.
So with that, Sean, let's bring in this episode of
Let's
Wrestling with
do
Life's
it.
guest.
do it.
Yes. It is the host of Wrestling with Heart with Stanley Karr. Oddly enough, he is also named Stanley Karr. Hey.
Hey there.
What's
How's
happening?
it going?
How are we?
Great. Good to
Super
be
excited
here.
that you took the time to
Yes.
chat with us about Wrestling with Heart and all things that you're up to.
Thank
Yes,
you
all
for having
things-
Excited
me.
for that.
All things
Yes.
Stanley.
All things Stanley Karr.
Yes.
So let's bring it all the way back to the beginning and tell us, how did we get here? How did Wrestling with Heart begin?
Well, first of all, I've always been a wrestling fan since I was about 5 years old.
Mhm.
I remember one night, my dad was actually watching Monday Night Raw, and I just wanted to chill with him, just wanted to see what was going on. The Rock was on. The rest is history. It was the Attitude Era. It was like one of the hottest periods of all time in professional wrestling. Steve Austin was out with an injury. Triple H was the top heel. On the McMahon-Helmsley faction was like the
Yes.
top thing going on.
Yes.
So out from there, I was hooked. I took a little bit of a break, regretfully, but I've always said that I grew up as a Ruthless Aggression era kid because that's what were like my formative years as a fan, like that
Mhm.
whole like 2004 to about 2007, 2008 period.
Right.
So I was in it, and I've been a fan, for a long, long time. So I got to attend my first WrestleMania in Dallas, Texas, when Steve Austin came out of retirement. Stone Cold Steve Austin came out of
Nice.
retirement and wrestled Kevin Owens in
Nice.
Dallas. That was a
Very cool.
great show.
Hell yeah.
I enjoyed that, and I just went to my second Mania earlier this year in Philadelphia.
Nice.
So I
Very
got
cool.
to see The Rock wrestle, team up with
Mhm.
Roman Reigns to wrestle Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. That was a great show as well. And also went to SummerSlam when it came to Nashville.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So I have come from a radio background. I work for a couple of radio stations in the Middle Tennessee area, one of which is a college station.
Hey, I did
And
the same thing.
yes, so my boss was teaching a podcasting class
Oh,
a couple of years ago, and I had decided, this is pretty cool, skill to have, podcasting. It's growing industry. And I had been doing a lot of music shows, and I thought, you know what, this is a pretty good time to do a wrestling podcast. And if I'm going to do a wrestling podcast, though, as you know, it's crowded.
it's flooded. Flooded. Yeah.
Flooded. So if I'm going to do a wrestling podcast, why not pick something that really hasn't been talked about or really covered before? And there really hasn't really been one covered on giving back to your community, doing charity work, volunteering. It's all about the negative side,
Yeah.
young of drugs, or ooh, this person won the title. How did you feel about winning the championship for the first time? Working with this person, we do talk about that on our show.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk about making a difference in other people's lives. Like, what kind of charity work have you done? Organizations have you partnered up with? Any stories that you might want to share about overcoming something in your life and maybe passing it on to somebody else? And we talk about stories as well. So different kinds of subjects we talk about that are near and dear to their hearts, but also that can help somebody that's going through something, inspiring somebody. So we talk about that stuff as well. So I started with 7 episodes throughout the class, and I was like, you know what? I really enjoy doing this. I want to keep it going, and been growing ever since.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, we started in a similar fashion, Ralph. But the difference was that Ralph had been ready for a good 7 years before he contacted me about being on the show with him. So when he finally asked me to do it, I was like, let's do it. Because I had been out of the game myself for like 10 years after college radio. After I graduated, I tried to go into mainstream radio and realized it wasn't for me. It was totally different from what college radio had taught me and what I had learned. So I thought of it for a while until he asked me to be back on, and it's been go ever since. So podcasting really is an outlet that I really also enjoy a lot too.
Yeah, I've had no background in any of it whatsoever. No radio background, no podcasting background. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, and I looked at what he was doing with podcasting and just how he kind of went from, not being involved at all to having like this podcasting network and all these shows. And I thought, you know what, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be a podcaster. So I actually, Colt Cabana he was doing his 300th episode of Art of Wrestling. And on that, he did an AMA where someone asked him, what kind of equipment do you use? And he has one of the most professional sounding podcasts I've ever heard. Like, it doesn't matter where he's recording, it is super professional. So I just went out and got the same equipment that he had. And then, unlike Colt Cabana, I waited 7 years to get started, unfortunately, but here we are now. So talk a little bit about your background in radio. How did you end up kind of in the world of radio? And, a little bit about some of the cool things you're doing with radio. Right?
Sure. So I started doing radio almost 10 years ago, 2015. I was attending the same college where I'm working at now, in this town called Gallatin, which is not far from Nashville. So I majored in entertainment media production with a concentration in video production, but I started really getting interested in doing radio shows at the college. I was taking a couple broadcasting classes, and throughout my time there, especially that first year, I enjoyed doing the weekly college shows. Just was obsessed. Like, I knew a lot about music and was trying to engage with listeners, coming up with cool ways to get people involved. I would do these trivia contests, and if somebody got the answer correctly, I'd play 2 songs by the same artist in a row that we had in our playlist. So we did that.
That's cool.
And so over time, I just was like, you know what? I want a career in this. I'd like to do it. and I'm going for it all the way. So I started with that, and I also picked up a show on a community radio station in Nashville, which I'm still doing today, called The Piano Men. It's about piano players in different genres of music. We play stuff like R&B music, pop, rock, jazz.
That's cool.
So it's a very eclectic show, and it's going on its 8th year. And I've interviewed several people like Jim Brickman, pianist.
Oh.
Yeah, Jim Brickman, John Tesh, another one who I've interviewed.
Oh. That's impressive,
yeah. Bruce Springsteen's one of his original members of the E Street Band,
Oh,
David
wow.
Sanchez.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
also Michael O'Mardian, who played with Steely Dan and helped Christopher Cross get his start in music.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I've had on a lot of people with the Piano Men, and I've been syndicated on about 25 plus radio stations and counting.
That's impressive.
And
Really cool.
I'm also doing some part-time work on a small station in Hendersonville, which is not far away from Gallatin and Nashville. So I've been doing that for about 5 years. And so with Wrestling with Heart, I actually just got picked up by a station in Atlanta, or in the metro Atlanta area, WDJY FM.
Nice.
So my goal is to grow Wrestling with Heart as well as get it on radio and get syndicated. So that's kind of my goal in radio, is to be a syndicated radio personality.
That's really cool. Yeah. So let's talk about Wrestling with Heart. What is like the mission statement and goal of Wrestling with Heart?
Well, like I said earlier, it's really to document the good work that these men and women are doing outside of the ring with charity work and volunteering and community service, and just spreading awareness of the things that have gone on in their lives, the struggles that they've had, and they've been able to overcome them. And not only the stuff that they've overcome, but paying it forward. You know, that's a way of helping people, you know, and especially in this time, you know, people need help with all kinds of things and struggles. So I think that it should be in not only an inspiring one, but also an informative one. Yeah. There's lots of ways people can get involved in different things and different ways of helping. And so that's what I feel like Wrestling with Heart is. And I'm in this for the long haul. So I really want this to be turned into something big.
Yeah.
So, and doing a podcast ourselves, you know, it's hard to say like I have a favorite guest, but do you have a guest that has been on Wrestling with Heart that you would say had a particular interesting story that really kind of maybe hit home for you, or something that you really felt was like, wow, this is maybe, you know, not what I expected, but this is a really great story, something that stands out?
Yeah, I had one guest. She was a wrestler in training, I guess I should say. Her name is Black Dahlia. She goes by the name Black Dahlia. Her and her friend trained under Funaki and later Rikishi.
Wow.
And so there was a period of time when she was just getting into it under Rikishi, where she had, you know, she was living in a car and was homeless for a period of time. And so, you know, her and her friend went to Los Angeles to train under Rikishi. So midway through her training, she broke her foot.
Oh,
and she had to live with that for a while, and is just now, you know, getting the surgery that she needs, and is able to, you know, get back into wrestling, and hopefully is able to resume her career. So that was a very inspiring story, you know, to hear that, because she had been through so much.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So do the guests get to kind of choose what they want to discuss? Do they tell you ahead of time like what charity or what they want to raise awareness to?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on like the kinds of stories that they want to tell, and depends on, you know, if, you know, some have done charity work, some have a story, like I said, that have really, you know, want to tell to other people. Gosh, who did I have on recently that had I had one. I don't know if you know who Hollywood is from Glow, Gorgeous Ladies Wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had her on, and she was talking about these soaps that she was making You
Oh,
know, and
cool.
she would donate them to different charities, especially in the Nashville area. She was selling when you know, we were in crisis with wars, or if people were dying for a certain cause, she'd make these like special soaps. I just interviewed Mackenzie Mitchell yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
So she was telling me about these earrings that she, you know, and these pieces of jewelry that she was making for autism awareness.
Oh, that's cool.
She was doing. So that was really, really inspiring, really cool that she was doing that, you know, and raising money. I had Devon Dudley on my show talking about doing a special fundraiser for breast cancer awareness. So I had him on. Just so many people getting the chance to talk with them about things that they had done. You know, making someone's day is always important. So
absolutely, yeah.
So you've had a number of big big names in the wrestling world, people that, like you said, someone like Hollywood, who is very known now because of not only being in Glow, but also, you know, The Wrestler and things like that. Do you ever find yourself, and this is something I always wonder, because I've met a lot of wrestlers, but do you ever kind of get, you know, either starstruck, or do you think to yourself, wow, like, I can't believe I'm sitting here talking to this person?
Yes. I mean, sometimes you kind of have those moments. I mean, it's just, you just have to be a professional and just go with it. You know, it's cool to be a fan and everything. I'm a fan. I have my moments, you know, where I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I get to talk with this person. But, you know, as somebody that's, you know, has done this for a while now, I just try to stay professional, do my job, and just go on, because at the end of the day, you know, I want this to take off and really be something big. So that's cool. Kind of what I'm aiming towards.
Yeah, we sort of had that moment. I had that moment, but I was able to stop myself until the end. We episode 50, we spoke to Mr. Anderson.
Oh wow,
that was our big episode 50. Yeah, and it wasn't until the end where I was like, listen, show's over. So I want to let you know, I tried everything in me not to mark out. I didn't. So yay for me. But like, just the fact that we were sitting there talking to Mr. Anderson, for me, I'm sure for Ralph too, we were just like, is this real? Is this actually happening? It just felt surreal. It was just a surreal moment to be able to talk to someone that I literally watched growing up and was a fan of him growing up. Like, it is crazy to see sometimes the people that we've talked to, that like you have to like just put the shield on and just focus.
It's funny. I still remember to this day, Eddie Guerrero's last match was against Mr. Kennedy. I still refer to him as Mr. Kennedy, but I think that it's unbelievable how much time has passed. We're talking about almost 20 years now.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's had an incredible career.
And now he's making this crazy resurgence, and I'm just so happy for him that he's coming back like headstrong, like just totally into it. Like, he even said to us like how excited he was to get back into the game and get back out there and do his thing, and maybe one day show up in a mainstream.
I'd love to see a Royal Rumble appearance. I think that'd be great.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
People would go nuts for that.
If his music hit, I guarantee you that fans would go ballistic.
Yes.
But he has to come out mid-stage with the microphone first, do the whole thing, then walk out. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I had a similar moment. We shortly after episode 50, we had our 1 year anniversary.
Oh yeah.
During WrestleMania week, we went to the Monster Factory for Matt Hardy's Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast, where we talked to like wrestlers and industry people, and so we had his co-host John Alba on our show for our 1 year anniversary. And during now John was up in New York because he was up at SNY. He was doing in between episodes of Sports Night, and so he was talking to us from one of the green rooms up there. And during the podcast, Matt Hardy called his cell phone.
Wow.
Yeah, he answered
it,
and Matt he told Matt, "Hey, I'm here with the guys from the Opinion City podcast. They were at our show in New Jersey." He's like, you know, I'm here celebrating their 1 year anniversary with them. Do you want to say anything? And so he congratulated us on the 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Very nice.
And after the episode was like, I was I was kind of okay during the episode. After the episode was over, it just kind of hit me like it's one of those moments where you think to yourself like, okay, so I look at what I'm doing and I often wonder like, am I doing okay? Am I doing a good job? Like I finally made it now. Like I was just like talking to Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
Like it kind of blew my mind a little bit, but I can imagine, you know, sometimes you go through some of the same kind of things where, you know, you realize like, hey, I'm really doing this. Like,
yeah, right.
You know, this is really becoming something.
Yeah, like I mean, I just had Teddy Long on the other day.
That's really cool.
And being able to talk with him, great guy. I mean, I've met him several times. Just very humble. We talked about how he got started, got in the business, and everything like that, and what he's been able to do is remarkable. I think he was one of the best general managers ever.
Yeah,
I think he really nailed that role down.
Absolutely.
So just being able to hear his story and what he was able to do was just incredible. So I really, it was great just to talk to Teddy.
So you've had over 100 episodes so far of On Wrestling with Heart.
Yes.
So what have been some of your favorite guests and topics that you've been able to discuss over the last 103 episodes?
Yeah. So so I had Ricardo on. I posted that episode up today. He was really good to talk to. I like talking with him about his school and how he overcame an alcohol addiction. That was really, you know, that was very powerful. I was able to parlay what he learned in WWE to being able to run his own school, run his own academy, Three Legacies Wrestling. That was a good conversation. Stevie Ray was a great one. I like talking with him and what he was able to do, you know, for not only the wrestling business, but pay it forward. You know, he's a public speaker, you know, goes to several schools in the Houston area. Getting to talk with him was really good. I'd love to get his brother on, obviously, too.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great. that would be a great one. But I had a great time talking to Stevie Ray as well. Who else did I have on that I really like? Terry Runnels.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a name I haven't heard in quite some time.
Yeah, she's awesome. I enjoyed talking with Terry. I'm trying to think who else I had on. Al Snow. He was my first podcast that I recorded.
Oh, wow.
That was a really good one.
First one. That's a huge get for a first one. That's huge.
Yeah. I mean,
crazy.
He's done some really good work with OVW.
Yeah. Have you watched his show, The Wrestlers, on Netflix?
Yeah. I've seen some clips from it. It's a really good docu-series. I liked it. I
highly recommend, if you have Apple TV, to watch the Monster Factory series, because that series, for me, is just as good as The Wrestlers. It's so good.
It hits in a different way, because when you watch The Wrestlers, you can tell, you know, it's everything that you would expect a documentary on Netflix to be. It's very produced and polished, and it just seems like the Monster Factory is more like, you feel more like cameras are just following guys around.
Right.
It's a different feel to it.
It feels more grounded in nature.
Yes. Yeah. See, who else did I have on? SoCal Val. I had her on the show.
Fun fact: SoCal Val was our very first intro when we started the show.
Yeah,
really.
We have. I have video and I have audio of her recording an intro for our show. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, she was the very first. It was her and one of the announcers for local indie wrestling by us. I don't remember his name.
David Adams.
He does
a lot of stuff like in New England and New York as well.
Crowbar was another one I really enjoyed talking to from WCW. He gave a really good message about following your dreams, but also have a backup plan just in case things don't work out. That was a good one. And he's a physician as well, physical therapist.
Oh,
so
cool.
That was a good conversation. We talked about that. Victoria, that was another fun one.
Nice.
So,
she's super nice too. I've met her a number of times, and she's just great.
You have a who's who of names that's been on your show.
You do.
It's got to feel crazy.
It is, man. I mean, I try to talk to as many people as I can, and I talk to the indie talents as well. I think giving them a platform, I think, is just as important, because they're trying to get their name out there.
Yep.
You know, this is a very grassroots project, but like I said, you know, I want this to grow and become something.
Of course.
So there's all kinds of things, you know, in the works and ideas, and I'm just trying to make it happen. So
yeah, that's
Very
sort of
cool.
more our focus is the indie scene, because we do feel like you're right. We do want to give those people an outlet to sort of get their name out there. Like a lot of the people that we've had are only 1, 2, 3 years in. They're still very new.
Yeah.
So we're giving them that platform to get their name out there, even though they're still very fresh and very new to the business.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we've had some people on that have, you know, again, like you were talking about, had really great and inspiring stories.
Yeah.
We had a wrestler by the name of Johnny Pierce on. And
He's great. Great guy.
He's from the New England area, and he wrestles a lot up there. But he had such an inspiring story. All the different things he's overcome in his life, you know, addiction and things like that, and just to get to where he's at now after seeing everything that he's gone through. It's just, you know, sometimes we think of these people as, you know, these larger than life characters.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't realize that sometimes there are some really, you know, intense and grueling, you know, stories about real life issues that they've had to overcome to get where they're at.
Exactly. It's just, it really shows, you know, whenever somebody's going through something, you know, that's what we try to do too, is, you know, help other people.
So getting back into more you and your wrestling fandom.
Yes.
What was the specific moment for you that hooked you in wrestling? What, maybe a match, a promo, a specific Raw or SmackDown that you remember growing up?
So I think it was just by seeing The Rock, just this larger than life character, just come out and really be like the man, pretty much, you know, running around, you know, talking smack to whoever he was talking to. So that was like, wow, this is awesome. You know, I was a little kid. I mean, I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Sure.
But like, you know, you know, getting to see him and then seeing guys like Triple H, you know, that was awesome. You know, Triple H and Big Show, this giant of a man, you know, I didn't get to see the Undertaker, you know, and the Dead Man character until a few years later. But when he was the American Badass, I got to see him a little bit come out on the bike. But I like to see, I really like the larger than life characters. I mean, that's something that, I mean, it's not every day like you get to see those kinds of people. And to me, it's like, wow, it's like a different universe.
Right. No, yeah, it literally is. And everyone that we've talked to kind of tells us it's the same thing. And I really enjoy it, because we ask them at the end of every show, we ask the guest, what does wrestling mean to them? And what is its impact that it's had on their lives? And almost all of them say the same thing, in a sense that it's escapism, right? We watch to escape from our own reality sometimes. We watch to suspend our disbelief for just 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, to believe that, hey, there is a dead man. There is a guy who was burned named Kane. They're like all these people that, obviously like things that we know aren't real, but for those 2 hours, we suspend our disbelief just to enjoy that show, enjoy that moment.
Right, exactly. There's just nothing like it in the world to have that live reaction from the crowd really come alive. It's just, where else can you get that?
I mean, it's honestly, to me, wrestling is a very misunderstood sport. Like, my family doesn't understand why I like it, but I
exactly.
Do.
It's one of those things where I hate when the PG era started.
Yeah.
Like everything, you know, like everything became, you know, too kid friendly, or people started saying wrestling's for kids, wrestling's, you know, should be for children. And I was like, wrestling, I don't feel like was ever a children's product.
No.
It's one of those, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, it may be a little geeky, but it's like, I feel like there's something for everybody in there. You know? You can have, I mean, and the cool thing about it is you can have your alternatives. You can have your WWEs, you know, your AEWs. You can have your TNAs. You can have your family-friendly shows. You can have your adult-oriented shows. You can have your whatever.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's always something for everybody, and there's a variety too. So I think wrestling can appeal to all ages. Obviously with the toys and the figures and all that, I get that. And in certain characters, you know, like the Ultimate Warrior, you know, with the face. I mean, I can get the appeal 100%, but I never ever understood the notion that wrestling was supposed to only be a kid's thing.
Right. I always make this joke because it always made me laugh. But when I turned around 12, 13, my parents like, all right, no more. Like they thought like I was done. Like, all right, you've grown up. Wrestling can be phased out. And I'm like, what do you mean phased out? I was like, do you realize that I watched a man throw somebody else off of a cell through a table and their tooth was through their nose? You think that was a family-friendly thing for me to watch when I was like 6 or 7? No.
Or somebody
absolutely not. No.
Or somebody getting thrown through a table with fire.
Yeah.
ECW.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I was watching Blood and Guts before Blood and Guts became a thing.
Exactly.
Like, I always thought it was funny. I was like, Mom, this is not a phase. This is now life. This is just life now. This is just like
pretty much. Yeah.
Wrestling with life. There you go.
Exactly. Right. Turn it all back around.
Yes.
So, speaking of alternatives and all the different things that are out there for people, being involved in radio and working in that, how much do you get to watch wrestling and how much do you really kind of follow the current product?
Well, I think with the internet now, everything is accessible, so you can look up, clips online or go on the websites, Wrestling Inc. or whatever, and just figure out, hey, what happened tonight or whatever. I'll tune into Raw, at least for about an hour and a half or 2 hours,
right?
Just to see what's going on. NXT is like my go-to show now that I can watch from start to finish. I think the talent there is just incredible. I mean, you got the main roster talent that are good as well,
of course,
but I think that the talent on NXT is really coming up, really like come a long way. I think they're just as hungry as the people on the main roster.
Sure.
I think that I've watched some AEW here and there. They've got a good product. I like MJF and what he's doing. Samoa Joe. I think Swerve Strickland is the future. I think he's a great champion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, it just depends. I've caught a little bit of WoW. I've interviewed a couple people from that promotion.
Cool. Yeah.
Ariel Sky, and what's her name? The Beast. I had her on the show as well.
Nice.
So
cool.
They were really nice to talk with. And so they were great to talk to. So I think that it's great that there's more alternatives now because about 20 or so years ago, you only just had one company. I mean, TNA, they were doing great on Spike TV. But I think now, happened. Well, I think you have, but I think the crazy thing is now you've got more than just one or two companies to watch on television. Wrestling has never been this popular.
It's been
since
such a
the
boom.
90s.
Yeah. We have hit such a boom period of wrestling that like me and Ralph say this all the time. It's so hard to keep up with because there's so much wrestling.
There's so much
to
going
watch.
On. Yeah.
There's so many streaming services. There's IWTV for all the indies stuff that you want to watch. There's Wrestling Premier Network. There's
Thriller.
So many. Triller.
Triller. I keep calling it Triller. Yeah, there is so much content out there, and it's a blessing and a curse because now there's something for everybody. But if you like more than one thing, it can be a little daunting trying to keep up with everything that's going on because there's a lot of content. But it's a good problem to have.
Oh, right, it's a good problem to have. Right,
it is. I mean, I just like I said, I just try to keep up with as much as I can. I think the cool thing about YouTube is that you can watch like clips of the show. You don't have to watch the full on episode just to watch what happened here. So, I see, the Bloodline's doing this week, or what's Bailey doing, or what's Nia Jax doing, what's what's CM Punk doing, or Drew doing. So it just depends.
Yeah, and we've gotten to this point now where you look at YouTube clips are hitting 60 million views.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
That's crazy.
So it's like, we've kind of transitioned to this point where, so many more people are just looking for these, short viral content clips rather than because to be honest, I mean, we do a Monday Night Raw live stream every week, and 3 hours can be a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
It can be, yes.
Yeah, I only have so many jokes in me at a time. It can get a little tough sometimes, but
we have a lot of jokes on the show.
We got a lot of jokes.
It gets a little crazy sometimes, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this while I'm thinking about it. Sorry, Ralph.
Yeah, yeah.
No, go ahead. Good.
What are your thoughts, and do you believe in this whole tribalism of wrestling? Like for me, anybody who's asking me, I say the same thing to everybody. To me, I just love wrestling. I don't care what the name is. I don't care what promotion it's under. I love professional wrestling. So no matter where it's from, as long as there's wrestling on TV, I will watch it.
And that's kind of my way of thinking too. I think it's good to have more than one company because, as we've seen, a monopoly isn't really healthy for the industry. I think having multiple companies, I think, is good because it brings more jobs, more products, more television shows. I mean, it's amazing to see how many people actually want wrestling on their television network now.
Yeah,
it's executives. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's crazy that we live in a time where where executives and brands are now clamoring for a wrestling show. Whereas maybe years ago they were like, "Oh, it's just wrestling. Who cares?" But now they're like, "No. We want that on our network." Like it's crazy.
It is, and I think over time you'll start to see pro wrestling be a little more accepted into society. I think that The Rock's doing a really good job of, and Triple H too, of making that happen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've gotten now. TV will always be TV,
of course.
But we've gotten to a point where so many people are just consistently focusing on streaming, and it took a little time for wrestling to kind of catch up to that. But wrestling has now become like the darling of the streaming era.
Yeah.
And I think, I think next year is going to be an explosion in wrestling being involved in the streaming market, because sports right now and streaming is such a big thing. You have all these companies coming together to create different sports networks available through streaming, and with Raw going to Netflix, I think that is just the tip of the iceberg. I think streaming is the future of wrestling. I think streaming networks are the future of wrestling. I think we're going to see AEW get a streaming deal at some point and cut the traditional pay-per-view model, because I think that eventually people are just gonna not want to pay for traditional pay-per-view prices.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think I agree with you. I think streaming is the future. It'll be exciting to see what happens when Raw goes to Netflix, but I don't ever see wrestling ever leaving traditional television altogether. I think there will still be a place for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think at least with some shows, because obviously once Raw moves to Netflix, SmackDown's moving to USA, NXT's moving to CW, so there's still going to be a TV presence. But I think where it's at least future-wise, if you want to stay relevant, is streaming.
Oh, sure, no question.
Because I think there will be a time where it might go away from TV and it might just be a streaming only platform.
Yeah.
And I'm planning on making the switch. I'm planning on getting Netflix and maybe even looking into the other ones as well. But I think that I think it'll be interesting once it goes to Netflix. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, I think we're all super amped because we don't know what to expect. We don't know if they're going to keep the 3 hours. We don't know if maybe they'll do 2 hours of Raw and then 3 hours of SmackDown. All we know for sure is that Triple H said it will be uncensored. There will be no black screens. There will be no muted mics. There will be no muted fans. It will be open, honest, and watchable. Because me and my brother also do SmackDown live streams, whereas me and Ralph do Raw. And Fox is so censor heavy that half the show is black screen. And I'm like, what are we doing? How can we watch the show when it's all black screen and we can't see what's going on?
It's getting out of hand.
Yeah, it's really out of hand.
Here's my question. When it goes to Netflix and if it's going to be uncensored, I don't know if you can necessarily go back to the Attitude Era.
I don't think they're going to go back to that, but I definitely think they're going to push to do more edgier content.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like when they go to Netflix, I think once it goes to Netflix, the PG era is over.
Here's the thing. I would love to see more of a product that's reminiscent of the Ruthless Aggression era.
Right.
Where you got great wrestling and great storylines merged into one. Because I think you still had that period of the Attitude Era, stuff around, but the wrestling just picked up big time.
Well, yeah, because if you look back at the Attitude Era now, it would get canceled immediately.
Oh, sure.
Immediately.
No question.
Yeah.
Like so the water,
The ruthless aggression area, especially during the time when Paul Heyman was in charge of creative for SmackDown, because the wrestling and the storylines were of equally high quality.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
I mean, you tuned into SmackDown, not just for the storylines, but you tuned in because the wrestling was so good. And I feel like that's kind of where, you know, because we talk about this all the time, where like WWE is very storyline focused. And Triple H just recently made a comment where he said, watching WWE is like watching a movie about the sport of wrestling. And that's a very telling statement, because they are very, not that the wrestling's not good, but they are very focused on storylines, where AEW, the majority of the focus is really on the wrestling. And I think that's what helps set them apart.
Yeah, I think it's good to have variety. Like I said before, you know, something for everybody. Different promotions will do different things. I'm personally someone that's a fan of the storytelling aspect of wrestling.
Right.
You know, it's good to have like the moves and stuff like that. But I feel like, you know, it's good to have why they're doing it, the psychology aspect.
Of course. I think for me, if I could have a promotion that's in between, because I do like the storytelling, I do. But I think you can also tell an amazing story in the ring, not just by doing promos and it's not. I think because there have been so many good matches where they told a story in the ring. My favorite example is Hogan Rock Mania, where mid-show, mid-match, they realized they listened to the fans, and they both switched roles on a dime. They said, you know what, we're listening to the fans, let's switch. So The Rock became the heel, and Hogan became they switched roles, and I thought that was awesome. Like,
but again, leading up to it, the build-up told a story.
Oh, of course,
too.
it was so good. Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah. So I feel like you kind of need
have
that
to have both.
to sell the show, sell tickets.
Of course.
Yeah, you can only have wrestler A wrestle wrestler B for no reason.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I think that's why the ranking systems always fail and go off to the wayside, because the ranking systems don't really tell a story besides, oh well, I want to wrestle this guy, so it doesn't tell enough of a story.
Right.
Yeah. So go ahead.
We do always do this at the same time. No, I wanted to touch base on your music thing, because you mentioned radio, you mentioned radio shows.
Yes.
So I wanted to, what music are you into? What is like your style of music? Are you a fan of almost everything? Are you a fan of only certain things?
Yeah, I mean, I like pretty much anything from like the 60s up until, now. I mean, especially with like 60s, 70s, 80s, that's like my jam. I mean, I love in 90s.
Oh, of course,
60s up to the 90s, early 2000s. That's kind of like my personal, interests.
Yeah, so I had my show in my college. I worked for 4 years. I was in college. I did WVYC, YCP. I did out of York, PA. And my show was Decades Gone By, and then I did the best of the 60s, 70s, and the 80s.
Very cool.
Occasionally, I would throw in like a special where I would do 80s and 90s or 90s and 2000s, but mainly I would stick with the 60s and 80s, because for me, even though I didn't grow up at that time, I feel like I did in a sense, because that's all I listened to growing up. That's all my parents played was like your Tom Waits, your AC/DCs, your Pink Floyds.
Exactly.
So that's all I knew. So even though I was a 90s kid, I only listened to 60s and 70s music.
I mean, the thing is like music can can span across generations.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is you can have your own certain memories with with listening to songs and listening to artists. I mean, that's the cool thing about music. It's not, I don't feel like should just be confined to one decade, even if it's just because it was popular then. If you grew up on something, listening to something, I mean, that's a part of your childhood, that's a part of your memory. So
do you have a favorite artist or band? I know that's a tough one.
The loaded question.
So, I mean, I would say like when I was younger, like when I was a teenager, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. I went to 2 shows of his, and but as a piano player, I mean, your Elton Johns, your Billy Joels.
Yep.
Those are my, like, anything from like the 70s and 80s, especially like your Phil Collins,
Oh, my
Journey,
favorite. Yeah.
Genesis, Bon
Mhm.
Jovi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the 80s especially. They got
Yeah.
some good music there. Michael Jackson.
My favorite.
Prince.
My favorite. Yep. It was
Are-
always my favorite growing up.
Mhm.
Are you aware? And I'm just going to throw this out there
Oh,
because
God.
I find this crazy all the time. Going to New Jersey one time to visit Sean, there is a John Bon Jovi service plaza in New Jersey.
Yeah, there is.
A service plaza named
Yep, it's
after
called John Bon Jovi.
That's
Yep,
insane.
yep.
Never knew that before.
Yep. Fun
Crazy-
fact.
crazy-
Yes.
Yeah, Jersey is a weird place. Fun fact.
Yeah, I'll admit, Jersey's listen. I love my state. I always have, always
Yeah.
will. But yeah, it is a weird place. There's a reason why there's literally a book called Weird New Jersey,
Yes,
because
of course.
there's a lot of weird things that happen in Jersey.
But the cool thing is like a lot of these artists, like Springsteen, Bon Jovi, they almost like grew up together. They ran around the same circles. You had the Stone Pony, which was like a big hub where all the
I
people
love
would come
that
in
spot. It's a great spot. Yeah,
hmm
I saw Fozzy there.
Really?
Yeah, Fozzy played there a couple years ago, and the funny thing was, my favorite part about that was Fozzy played. Bully Ray shows up.
Yeah.
Just shows up. Jericho doesn't know. So Bully Ray's squeezing through the aisle, trying to hide, but also trying to be noticed. That way he go to the front row and then wave to him to surprise him. And it happens mid-show, and Jericho stops the music, goes, "Oh, it's Bully Ray!" Like it's amazing. Like, it was such a cool moment. Like, he stopped the show to acknowledge Bully Ray,
That's
and then kept
funny.
going. I'm like, it's just great. Like, it's like that's so many weird
Alright,
memories with
so
music that
cool.
I love so much.
Yeah.
So I have a very weird music story.
All right.
So when I was in college, I played in the college band, and one Saturday we were getting ready to go to an away football game. So the music department was on the first floor of a building where they had all of the college concerts and whatnot, because they had like a college concert series there, and they get all kinds of people in. So one Saturday afternoon, there we are getting ready to get on the buses, and the artist who's coming in to play that evening, their bus shows up, and they get off their bus. And I'm only throwing this out there because you're in radio, so I figure, well, and Sean should probably know
yeah.
know who they are too. But Martha and the Vandellas got off.
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay.
awesome. Yeah.
And they came over and they're like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And Martha's like, "You guys going somewhere?" And so we got to talk to them for about a half an hour before we got on the buses and left. They were just like hanging out there with us. So yeah, that's my one weird
Funny, man.
all the people to meet. Yeah.
Never see. You know, it's crazy. I remember one time going to see a movie. I forgot what movie I was going to see. I run into Keith Urban.
Oh, wow.
Spotty,
Holy
yeah.
crap. Jeez.
Yeah, living in Nashville, man. It's you never know who you
I
run
guess.
into.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here's a good tie-in to go back into,
Yeah.
wrestling side of things.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of indie wrestling in your state? Like a whole bunch of promotions, a lot of indie stuff going on?
There's a few promotions. Tennessee Championship Wrestling, I know, runs shows in the area of in the state, I guess I should say. I mean, they
Right.
got shows in, I believe, Jackson, Tennessee, which is
okay.
West Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But they've had shows in the past here in Nashville at the fairgrounds. So yeah, they've got plenty of shows around the area, and they got stuff in a town called Lebanon and Mount Juliet.
Right,
They've had shows
right.
there in Gallatin. So yeah, they've got
Have you heard
indie
of-
shows.
Have you heard of Wrestle Maps?
Wrestle Maps. I have not.
Yeah, so we had the guy who created it on Wrestling with Life. Just so something that I think you would find interesting, and we'll probably hop on. Wrestle Maps is literally a website. It's a map, and what he does is he finds wrestling from literally everywhere.
Wow.
You want to
All
find
over the world.
wrestling? It's on the map all over the world. You want to search for like Lebanon? It's there. You want to search for something in Nepal? It's there. Like
All around the
it's,
world.
It's a map.
Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah.
it's a map of just any of where you can find local wrestling, and it's
So cool.
amazing. It's
Yes.
probably my
Yes.
favorite thing that I found out
Yes.
through.
WrestleMap.com.
Yep.
It
Okay.
is, it's a great resource. It's crazy some of the stuff they find on there. Like just recently we heard Cody Rhodes announce that he was like donating a ring to like a wrestling promotion in Uganda or something like that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
And that I believe that wrestling promotion was covered on WrestleMap.
Yeah.
We had a wrestler, a local wrestler by the name of Danny Moe. She's a wrestler. She just went to Nepal to set a Guinness World Record.
Wow!
Wow!
For
there you go.
The women's match at the highest elevation on Earth. And
that's crazy.
He was telling us a story about wrestling in Nepal where it's like up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And so it's like a 3-hour walking trek for people to get up to this, and they get thousands of people that come.
Yeah. They'll make the trek. Like it literally goes to show, and it's no joke that wrestling is in the biggest boom period because it
is, man,
everywhere. It is literally everywhere.
I mean, The Rock said it best: professional wrestling is cool again.
Yeah,
it never wasn't cool, in my opinion.
Well, to some
never wasn't cool.
It's always been cool.
Yeah,
but because of The Rock, it was made cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all right, so here's a question for you, and it kind of involves both wrestling and music.
Yeah.
As a host of a wrestling podcast and a radio host, if you had one talking pipe dreams here, one wrestler and one musician that you could interview, like if you could pick anybody.
Ooh.
Pick anybody. Okay. Well, you had mentioned Jericho earlier, so we could go with Chris Jericho.
Okay.
And how about Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney?
Oh, all right. That's a good one.
That'd be a great one.
That'd be a great dude. Having them together would be a fantastic interview. Oh yeah,
it would be
fantastic.
Yes,
that would be incredible.
Because Jericho is so embedded in music as much as he is wrestling, so he probably has just as many stories that Paul does that they can just go back and forth on, just stories back and forth.
Yeah, the banter between them would be legendary.
Oh, it would be crazy. I can't imagine the stories that they would tell each other and you.
Yes. I just moderate the whole thing.
Right. You're right. Vicar, you guys talk. I'm just going to be here in the background.
Yes.
And I'll come in when I need it, but you guys just talk it out.
Yes.
All right, so here's another one. I just thought of this one. This is like a two-parter, but what would you say is the best thing about living in Tennessee, and what is your favorite sort of southern Tennessee food?
There you go.
All right, so best thing living in Tennessee. Just seeing the people that have moved down here, you got a lot of tourism that's picked up. You got all the recording studios, BMI, ASCAP, CSAC. You got all the publishing houses here. Film production has picked up here in recent years.
Cool.
And just seeing the tourism, just seeing people from all across the world. It's crazy to think about because, Los Angeles is like the hub of movies, right? Hollywood and everything like that.
Right.
But now you got so many people moving down to Nashville. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And as far as food goes, I love barbecue, like brisket, chicken, smoked turkey. Yeah. That is my jam. I love that barbecue, man.
Yeah.
All about the barbecue. I love barbecue.
So speaking of barbecue, and Ralph's going to know exactly where I'm going with it. Over Mania weekend, we went to two different. We did a pre-show and post-show for two different shows for Labor of Love and Sean Henderson Presents. Great shows. But next to the venue that was at, there was a barbecue place called Deeks.
Okay.
And what they had there was a brisket cheesesteak. And when I tell you, it was probably the best cheesesteak I've ever had, even though it was a brisket cheesesteak. It was incredible. Just incredible. Knock your socks off. Like
it was a smoked brisket, and they had like a barbecue sauce and a cheese and some kind of house sauce they made, which was just, it was unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. Next time I'm in Philly, I'm gonna have to try it.
Oh, absolutely. And that bar too is just.
Yes.
Attic Brewing is an amazing bar, and right next to it is Deeks, so it's a double feature, if you will. Yeah. But they're both great. The bar atmosphere is fantastic. That's where the wrestling was.
Stuff.
The wrestling was in their beer garden in the back. But yeah.
So you guys went to Mania this year?
Yes, we did.
How was it?
Ralph went to Mania itself, but I only went to the indie shows that were surrounding Mania. We did both Labor of Love shows, which was Wrestle John on Wednesday, Euphoria on Thursday, and then I had gone to Suplex Mania on Saturday. Ralph actually went to both Manias, night 1 and night 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were down there the whole week.
Mhm.
We did a WrestleMania preview show from a place called Sweet Lucy's Barbecue, which is less than a mile from where Chikara Pro used to hold their shows at the Wrestle Factory.
Yep.
Again, we did those 2 shows. We did WWE World. We did the
Which
whole
was awesome.
Yeah.
We did
was
the
really
Matt
good.
Hardy podcast Friday night. Yeah, WWE World was great. They did a great job
Yeah,
this year.
that was my first fan access experience.
Yeah.
and It did not disappoint. It was so good. It was so much fun.
It was really good.
Did you guys do VIP?
I did not.
No.
So I ended up finding, because I was gonna do VIP, and then I ended up finding my seats actually on eBay.
Okay.
And I got my wife and I went to both nights of Mania, and I got 2 seats in the club level section.
Oh, very nice.
So we were, and I'll tell you what though, that was like, for me, that was the way to go, because like literally we would come down from our seats and go inside, and they had like the club level section where I didn't wait in line for a single thing. I literally walked up, got my food, and went back to my seat. Like it was worth it. It was little more expensive than we originally wanted to pay for
Right.
seats, but it was worth it. So we were like in the corner of the end zone, facing toward the entrance. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we had really good seats.
Did you do both nights?
I only went to night 1.
Okay.
But I did attend WWE World. I went to
Mhm.
I was a vendor at WrestleCon.
Nice.
And
Very
that
cool.
was really successful. I'm actually going to be a vendor again at WrestleCade in November.
Nice.
I was there last year, and I'm going to be back this year.
Awesome.
And so I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be really fun. And I really aim to get out there to do more conventions and get the word out, man. Because I feel like, this is going to be something really good, something really big.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
super exciting.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, did you have a favorite moment from night 1?
Yeah.
Ooh, well, I like seeing The Rock live.
Of course,
that was the highlight for me.
Mhm.
I like seeing Triple H walk out and introduce
Yeah.
the show. I like seeing Sami Zayn win the IC title, the Intercontinental Championship. That was a really good moment.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they had a really good card. I thought night 1 was really good.
Yeah.
My wife and I have a little bit of a connection to The Rock. She was very excited to see him. So a very good friend of ours who is used to be her teacher back in the day, but he runs a charity now called Best Scholarships, and they raise scholarships for people to go to college, but they do it with baseball players and athletes. So I mean, this guy's got like World Series pitchers coming to his charity dinners,
Right.
But he actually, because The Rock grew up in Bethlehem, went to school in Bethlehem, and he actually taught The Rock. And when The Rock moved back from Florida, the reason that his production company is called $7 Production is because when he moved back, he only had $7 in his pocket.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
His mom was going to be evicted from her home, and he had no idea what to do. So this teacher and another teacher from the school met with The Rock at a pizza place in Bethlehem, and they sat down and they mapped out exactly how The Rock was going to take care of all of these situations. So we've got a little bit of connection.
We got a little
Very
bit.
nice.
Just a little bit. Just a tiny bit.
As my wife will say, my biggest moment of WrestleMania was when Seth Rollins came out with the mummers. I went apeshit because I'm a big Philly guy. I'm a big Philadelphia fan. Mummers, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, it was.
Nice.
But just being at WrestleMania was fun. The atmosphere, the Philly crowd was great. Chanting Gatorade at Logan Paul, seriously, it was so much fun. My only problem was I sat next to some LA Knight fans. I'm not an LA Knight guy.
LA Knight's cool, man. He's great.
I don't know. It's just he's not for me. I understand why people like him. I'm not this and the guy.
Like who you like, you know?
Right.
Like who you like.
For me, the craziest part of Mania wasn't even Mania itself, but it was the fact that during the LA Knight match, this guy thought to hop on a live stream that I was on with a friend doing a live watch along, and he decided to hop on live from Mania to say hi during the LA Knight match.
Yeah, so I got to show off some of the crowd, and
You know, show off the crowd and show off the vibe.
Yeah.
It was cool to see his little box and what he saw from his eyes. It was cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's cool. It's pretty nice.
All right, so let's talk a little bit here. What kind of things do you have going on, coming up? Anything you want to promote?
Yeah. So, see, we just had our 102nd episode out today with Ricardo Rodriguez, and we've got Buff Bagwell coming on the show.
Oh, nice!
Pretty soon.
Nice.
As I mentioned, look for interviews with Teddy Long and Mackenzie Mitchell. Kelly's another one that I interviewed recently. She'll be on there, and I've got a slew of people, man, that I'm trying to interview. I'm trying to interview, and just network with as many people as I can possibly. Yep. So, got some things in the works.
That's all you can do, man.
Yeah.
And of course, you're on socials, so people can find Wrestling
Yes,
with
we're
everywhere.
Facebook. Punch in Wrestling with Heart with Stanley Karr. We're on Facebook. We're trying to get up to 800 likes. Get the followers up. Get the likes up. So follow us on Facebook. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter, at WWHWSK. Twitter, yeah. Twitter.
Yeah.
Instagram at Wrestling with Heart. Follow us on Instagram. We're on Threads at Wrestling with Heart. We're on YouTube, trying to get up to 500 subscribers. We're inching close to that 500 mark. Just punch in Wrestling with Heart with Stanley Karr. Find us there. Hit that subscribe button. And follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. On every podcast platform that you can think of, we're on there.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, it's been great talking to you, man.
Thank you again for having me.
Thanks for taking the time out of your busy day and schedule to come hang out with us and talk shop about all things wrestling and Wrestling with Heart.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you again.
All right, so we're gonna wrap things up here. We'll be with you in just a few moments, so hang tight.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was an awesome interview. I was really excited about this one because I always like things. I always like things that have a purpose, that have a cause, that are trying to do good and spotlight good. And so it was really important, to get to talk to Stanley today and learn a little bit more about, some of the things he's doing with Wrestling with Heart, because it's it was interesting what he said about, like, everybody's always talking about the bad in wrestling, but spotlighting the good in wrestling. There's
so much good in wrestling that gets unnoticed because of the bad.
Absolutely.
And it needs to be spotlighted, and Stanley Karr is doing it. So that's going to wrap us up for this episode of Wrestling with Life. I'm King Ralph. He's Parmesan. Thanks for joining us again. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on all the socials, and make sure you follow and support Wrestling with Heart with our good friend Stanley Karr. And we will see you guys next time.